Oh, we're now joined by Jim Williams, media consultant in the business, writes columns for Forbes and Zanger. And Jim, when we had him on for the first time ever, don't remember exactly how many months ago. It's been almost a year. He's the one that really kind of threw out the Apple TV, and some people scoffed. And there's been some things that he's asked about or mentioned or said, "What do you think about this?" But he got in front of Apple TV pretty quickly. Jim, thanks for your time and being a part of the show. So when great to have you on, Jim. So you brought them up early. Why did you bring them up early and not like Amazon or others that could have been? And we still don't even know all the answers here, but why did you bring them first?
Well, because Amazon, bought all the content, right? They had movies, they had TV shows, they had contracts with a bunch of different people. Apple, on the other hand, didn't. Apple was starting everything from scratch. I mean, if you look at Ted Lasso and everything that Apple did was through Apple, owning the content. So it just thought, going back to 2019, Apple's first, real talking about sports was to Larry Scott when Eddie Q went from, the Apple headquarters over to talk to them about, what would it take to get the rights for 2025. And that was in 2019. So, they were in on it for, since before day one. And I just thought that was the same month they launched, was in 19. So they had this, they had college, and Tim Cook's a big college football and basketball fan. So, if you're going to do it, that was it. Plus, think about it from the investment standpoint. Stanford, Cal, Washington, Oregon, and back in that time, it was UCLA and USC. I mean, all of the schools have heavy investment in the tech industry. So, it just seemed to track well.
So, Jim, why would the Pac even consider, and I'm guessing that's why George Kliavkoff didn't want to bring it to them and show them that this was the best offer they had on the table, consider a deal where they don't even know how much it's really worth past the initial payment they'll get?
I don't know. I wish I could have answered that question, Paul. Most of these deals that are done with streamers have these kind of escalator deals with, incentives here or there. Everywhere it'll go with a base and then you sell the subscription. I just think that had this been brought to them and sold to them early, where they could get a brace on it and and think about it and work with it, they might have been able to do it. But I think this late in the game, they're just so dug into traditional television that they just can't wrap their head around this. And at this point, it's in many ways it's not really fair to Apple, to be honest, because they're looking like the bad guys here, and it's not their fault that this is the way it ended up. So I kind of feel bad for them because they came in, they put in the best bid. If there was a better bid out there, George would have taken it to them, and there isn't. So, they're getting beat up, and I don't think it's not really their fault.
All right. So you and I traded a couple of texts. We've traded dozens of them over the last several months, but you've seen anything from 20 million, 22.5 million.
Yeah.
You think there's a figure higher than that. Why do you feel like it's higher?
I think it's higher because I think that they know that they have to put a number there that is reasonable, and reasonable has got to be around 25. So the number I think it's 25. And then the escalators could get them by, the 31.7, which is the Big 12 number. I just think at this point in time, and I started writing column this morning. I deleted and started and deleted about 20 different times because things change. I just don't think I don't think it's going to be enough to push them across. And it's not it has nothing to do with the money. I think it has to do with the linear. Think it has to do with the comfort level that the teams have with linear television, and I just don't think they want to go streaming to the extent that Apple would do it, whether or not it would be successful or not. And I don't, as I say, I think at this point in time, honestly, anything that was going to come up there was just not going to be enough to get some of these guys on board. So, it's been a long day for everybody, and it's been a long couple of months. But I think that when they walked in there and said, "Here's our streaming deal," and there wasn't enough linear in there, that to me, I don't see Arizona. When Bob Roberts comes out there and says, it's got to be 50% linear, there's just nothing happening there. It just can't be. Dennis Dodd and I did a column on CBS months ago that there was just no way to get to 50 linear.
So, Jim, if there are possibilities of more than two schools or one school joining the Big 12, you've got to go to Fox and get that money. So if Fox doesn't want to pay, and somebody asked this on Twitter, and I'm trying to, if they don't want to pay the money to the Pac-12 that has these teams in it, why would they want to pay that to get the Big 12 up so that they can get to 16?
I don't know, Paul. I mean, I guess that they're looking at this as an investment, and it's an investment in 4 schools as opposed to an investment in 9. So maybe that's the way they're looking at it. I don't know. I mean, it's. I wish I had an answer for you. It just. And again, remember, the amount of money they're paying is less than what they would have to pay if they were paying them on for the Pac-12 rights. So. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, let me. And we have Bob on, and we've had Patrick on.
Yeah, I know Bob was on yesterday.
Yeah, and no, and of course you guys have been incredible for us to give us insight and knowledge behind the room, like in the boardrooms and whatever else.
Right.
So it is whatever the 20, 21, 23, 20, whatever million. Then there's the incentives. Is the 25 million plus incentives, and what would be, in your opinion? What would be the expectation of how much and how many of those subscriptions? Would it be $49, $69? What would it be? And then on top of that, who's going to pay for the production? Does that come out of that money? Does the Pac-12 get, or do they write the Pac-12 a check? How many years would this be, Jim? Would it be 5? Would it be 7? I mean, there's a lot of these questions that still also need to be tied up, right?
Let me put together the deal that I think that could save it. Maybe. Okay. 25 base. $49 to Apple subscribers, $69 to everybody else. You give away subscriptions to every student that's in a Pac-12 school for year 1. And the subscription situation where, what's the subscription situation from the standpoint of how do you have to add? If for every million subscribers you add, you split it 60-40 to the conference. That might be something that gets you, gets it across the line. Because I think that you give it to every student in the Pac-12. You could even go and do a discount where if you're a student from other schools or any school in the country, you could give them, a discount there. But I think if you price it at $49 for a year, and $69 for anybody who isn't an Apple subscriber, and put everything on the Pac-12 network, and go ahead and cut them a check for production. I think that would get it across, because that would, And I would actually start this year because they own the Pac-12 owns the network. So you could let Apple get ahead of the game and put them in there and say, okay, you're going to take charge of the network. They would clean it up and not do 7 different, variations of the network, just one network, like the Big Ten network, and run it that way. Apple could do that tomorrow. I mean, if that's what they wanted to do. And that could be your introduction and you're rolling. So my way of doing it would be make a deal with the Pac for this year to take over the network and stream the network. Give that away for free on Apple TV Plus, and then roll out the big package in 2024.
Yeah, you give every student a free subscription. Okay, I get.
Yeah.
Are there even that many Pac-12 diehard fans that are going to buy any subscription? I'm not trying to say there's not fans. Washington, we know a ton of people go to their games, in Oregon, et cetera. But are they going to do that? And is this like basically trying to take a doll that's been busted apart like a piñata and trying to tape it back together?
I kind of think it's what this whole concept was with Apple is it's a proof of concept. Okay. It's show me what you can, that we can do this. It's what they're doing with the MLS, right? It's show us that you can handle a lot of if you're going to do baseball or basketball, the NBA or Major League Baseball, any of that, you really need to prove that you can do it. And I think that what they're doing with the MLS is saying, okay, we can run, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12 games at a time. And it's not, and we can stream them and everything looks good. So it's a proof of concept. The thing, David, that I think people you can't equate streaming to broadcast television. It just does. It's apples and oranges, no pun intended, in that situation. You just can't because they're not looking for the same thing. Ratings are meaningless in this case. So you have to look at it in a different way, and so it becomes complicated. And right now, the last thing the Pac-12 needs is something that's complicated.
So, yeah, that's very true, Jim. How do you see this, in your opinion, playing out over the next couple of days?
All of us, you guys have been outstanding at trying desperately to play this so that it's not one conference against another conference against anything else. And we've all been, everything we've said, let's hope the Pac survives. Honest to gosh, guys, I've run every possible scenario in my head, and I just don't see how if they had the perfect streaming setup there, I just don't see Arizona buying it. And if Arizona doesn't buy it, well, that takes you down to 8. Even if Arizona State and Utah wanted to stay there, I don't know. I just don't. I think at this point in time, the dam's about to break, and there's just nothing that and that's why I said I feel bad for Apple because not really their fault. They put in the best bid. You're getting pounded in the press for putting in a good bid. It is what it is. But I honestly, guys, I wish I could say that I think the Pac's going to survive this, but I just don't see how it's going to happen.
All right, so you say 25. Let's say you're wrong.
Yeah.
All right?
It wouldn't be the first time, David.
No, because some people are like, people want to, here's the thing about what the chat room or message boards, people want to read what they believe and they don't want to.
Right.
And one of the things we have tried to do, and I appreciate what you said, is we are trying to give different angles, different opinions, different whatever, even sometimes evidence and facts, and people can grab it, whatever. We don't want it to be like we shove things down people's throats, although a couple of people in the chat have said that before. But you think it would have to be a minimum base of 25 million. So if in fact you learn in the next 2 or 3 days that it's 22, do you just go, hell no, there's no way? Because there may not be a way even at 25.
No, you're right. And here's the problem. Let's just say the number is 22, okay? and nobody else is there. I mean, literally, we don't know that there's anybody else there. Let's say it's 22 and it's nobody else there. All right. If you've got Roberts who said it's got to be 50% linear, you've got a lot of these presidents and other folks that are involved that, are old school. The idea of streaming might just be enough to break that, that log jam. And as I said, I would love to see it just to see how it works, but I don't know. I just don't know.
Jim, you and I have been texting back and forth the last couple days.
Oh, really?
Yes. Jim,
I did not know.
Jim and I have a separate friendship than all of us. It's just how it works. It's just these are things that happens when you introduce people, Smokey.
Right.
But Jim, you know the ACC really well. Florida State in the last couple days, especially today, with a lot of what right now is only bravado. Because they can say no document is going to stop them from leaving, and that they feel that they've got a plan, they've got an understanding, and they need to make more money, and that's all well and good. But they don't know who wants them if they were to leave, and that might be B. But they can't even get out of the league just easily. Do you think, and we've talked about this, that this is disruption to try to create some buzz that they get an alliance of teams within the conference to try to break this grant of rights? Because if it was just that easy as saying, we're tired of this, then they could leave tomorrow, but I don't think that's really possible.
I've got two words for it: billable hours. Because that's what you get. You could get sued by members of your own conference in this deal, because you're breaking stuff up that in essence could, there's all kinds of legal aspects to this. I mean, there's just nothing here that I think what they're doing, and it's not this could be very, very good, and FSU's doing what they can, and I get that, and I think it's not a bad idea. They're pushing every button they can to see how far they can go to get more money out of ESPN. And that's where they are right now. I think that's what they're trying to do, is just doing the best they can. Because you can't breaking that grant of rights is going to take a while. And there's going to be a lot of hard feelings when they try to go to, some disproportionate revenue source. That's not going to necessarily work either. So yeah, I think, is it worth testing? Yeah, sure. And are they out there, willing to give it a try? It looks that way. But man, you guys had Bob yesterday, and Bob was talking about the grant of rights, and obviously, everybody knows that Bob and I don't know anything about the grant of rights anymore. But clearly, the grant of rights there's a reason it's there. I mean, the networks don't sign the grant of rights, so this is basically you're in a group with people that you want to work with. And if you don't want to work with them anymore, it's going to be difficult, because you signed a deal with saying you're going to be working with them for, to 2036.
All right, I want to make sure at the end of this, and Jim, as always, we appreciate it, and a lot of times that you promote us, whether you're on the show or not, and appreciate your time on everything. But so you think what it might be, you've said that what the base of $25 million or whatever, and then the subscriptions and what you do with the kids on campus, young men and women. But you are also saying that you feel like there's enough cracks in the dam, because we even had an Arizona State writer just a minute ago, and he feels like that's shifted, and that's a guy that's been really pro-Pac and wants to be a part of the Pac, but they even maybe are wobbling. And we know what Robbins has said all the right things, but he's never ever said, that it's no matter what, we're staying. You feel like the crack was Colorado, but now you might see the burst if in Arizona might lead to 2 or 3 teams?
If Arizona goes, I think it's gone.
Oh,
because
so okay.
I just don't think. There are folks I really trust in Utah, and even I got some stuff back from them, and I just feel that I wish. I'm trying to be positive, but I can't. I just can't. I can't find a way to make this work. And
I want to get to that point too, because some people sit there and say, "Well, he's a mouthpiece." You've seen it. He's trying to prop.
Yeah, believe me.
That's not your job. Your job is
No.
to tell what you hear, learn, or think,
Right.
but you're not hoping they survive because you're pro-Pac. You're just hoping they survive just because you want to see a conference remain in existence, correct?
Yeah, I mean, you and I've seen two conferences that we love, the Southwest Conference and the Big East Conference, go south for the winter. And it's not fun. We've known people in there. We know that, oftentimes people forget that when schools and universities make these changes, there's a lot of people that are collateral damage in this. And so, we have relationships with those folks. So it's not, does Jim Williams want the Pac-12 or, to survive because he doesn't like any other conference. It's just that you have friends and you've made relations over the years that you just hate to see a conference that's been there for 126 years, fold into the dust.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And there are hundreds of years of experience. Thank you, Jim. Appreciate your time as always. Jim Williams, he writes for Forbes, also Zanger, has been in the business, and